Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Karen, we began with an act of political violence.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
This morning,
and I'm
police
Karen
are still
Moscow.
searching
Here are
for
the
the
stories
gunman
we're following
who killed
today.
Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist and founder of Turning Point USA, was shot as he was speaking to an outdoor crowd at Utah Valley University. He was rushed to a local hospital where he died. Utah Governor Spencer Cox reacted on the campus after the shooting.
This is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox spoke as local police had a person of interest in custody. That person has been released. Officials say the gunshot may have been fired from a rooftop about 200 yards from where Kirk was speaking. Surveillance video shows a person in dark clothing who may be the suspect.
Well, Nathan, Charlie Kirk's assassination has sparked shock and anger on both sides of the aisle. President Trump posted a video tribute on Truth Social last night.
This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever.
And in that video message, President Trump blamed rhetoric from, in his words, the radical left for contributing to the violence. Democrats are also condemning the attack. New York's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez reacted on Capitol Hill.
This is horrific. This is awful. And the assassination of Charlie Kirk risks an uncorking of political chaos.
And it adds to a series of political violence in recent years, including the murder of a Minnesota Democrat earlier this summer, an arson at Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's home, and 2 attempts on President Trump last year. Charlie Kirk leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. He was 31 years old.
Well, Karen, Americans are also marking the 24-year anniversary since the September 11th attacks at the World Trade Center site in New York City. The nearly 3,000 victims' names will be read aloud. We get more from Bloomberg's Lisa Mateo in Manhattan.
The first moment of silence comes at 8:46, marking the moment Flight 11 struck the North Tower. After, houses of worship will toll their bells throughout the city, and then families of the victims begin reading their names in pairs. The next moment of silence comes at 9:03, when Flight 175 struck the South Tower. At 9:20, we get moments of silence at both the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Silence happens again at 9:37, the time Flight 77 struck the Pentagon. At 9:59, silence marks the time of the fall of the South Tower. 10:03, we observe silence for the time Flight 93 crashed near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The day's last moment of silence happens at 10:28, the time the North Tower fell. The full commemoration concludes in the noon hour after all victims' names have been read. In New York, Lisa Mateo, Bloomberg News.
All right, Lisa, thank you. We want to turn to the trade war now, and Mexico plans to impose tariffs of as much as 50% on products made by China. We get more with Bloomberg's John Tucker. And John, what's behind the move?
Yeah, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum, Karen, is aligning her country more closely with U.S. protectionism. She's hoping to appease President Trump ahead of talks over North America's free trade deal. Mexico has become the biggest destination for cars from China. And that doesn't sit well with President Trump as he wages the trade war with China. Higher Mexican tariffs would apply to a list of more than 1,400 categories of products, including autos. China, South Korea, and India are among the exporters that would be hit. Now, Mexico has replaced Russia as the top destination for exports of Chinese cars. General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis ship their China-made cars to Mexico and other parts of Latin America, where they're sold relatively cheaply. Now, the U.S. and Canada have a free trade pact with Mexico known as USMCA. The terms of that pact call for a review next year, which may open the door for renegotiation between the 3 countries. In New York, I'm John Tucker, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, John, thank you. The CEO of one of the world's biggest banks says the impact of global tariffs on the U.S. economy and Fed monetary policy remains unclear. We spoke with UBS Chief Sergio Armati in Hong Kong.
The true issue on tariffs will be seen on consumers. In the U.S., we will need to see exactly if there is an inflationary aspect of tariffs. And
is that still unclear at this point?
I think it's unclear.
That was UBS Chief Sergio Armati speaking this morning with Bloomberg's David Ingles in Hong Kong. For the full conversation, head to the Bloomberg Podcast channel on YouTube.
Nathan, we also caught up with another banking boss this morning. Citigroup CEO Jane Fraser said the U.S. economy is proving resilient due to robust consumer spending and that she doesn't see a recession on the horizon. And Fraser spoke with Bloomberg's Jumana Bersetchi in Dubai.
I still see very strong pipelines. I see high level of engagement from clients. I see a sense of urgency as well, given the speed with which industry structures are changing. And there is still growth opportunity. I think growth will be a notch lower. We're keeping an eye on the labor market. It's a low churn market. So not everything is rosy, but we don't see a recession on the horizon.
Citigroup CEO Jane Fraser also said merger activity is rebounding as U.S. companies gain confidence from clearer policy signals.
Turning to the markets now, Karen, futures are pointed higher a day after stocks closed at another record high and ahead of this morning's key economic report on inflation. Economists forecast core consumer prices rose 0.3% for a second straight month. We get a preview from Bloomberg's Michael McKee.
It's not whether consumer price inflation rose in August, but which products and by how much. The hunt is on for signs of tariff price pressure. Analysts will look to electronics, furniture, and other durable goods, as well as food and clothing. Another category to watch, service prices, which unexpectedly rose last month. Core durables, meanwhile, rose at the fastest non-COVID rate since 2012 in yesterday's PPI report. Signs of import tax impacts may not deter the Fed from cutting interest rates next week, but they may affect market views on the path of rates going forward. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Mike, thank you. While the economy and monetary policy are also in focus overseas this morning, the European Central Bank is expected to leave interest rates unchanged today. In fact, economists believe policymakers are finished with cuts for now.
And as stocks set records on Wednesday, Karen, it was a historic day for Larry Ellison. The Oracle founder briefly surpassed Elon Musk to become the world's richest person. Ellison's personal wealth soared $89 billion after Oracle's earnings and forecast. That increase lifted his total net worth to more than $383 billion.
Time now for a look at some of the other stories making news in New York and around the world. And for that, we're joined by Bloomberg's Michael Barr. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. Today marks 24 years since the September 11th terror attacks. In New York City this morning, a group of firefighters and their families will be running 34.3 miles to remember and to remind others to never forget what happened that horrible day. They will run from Long Island to the World Trade Center to honor the 343 members of the FDNY who were killed that day. Joe Downey is the grandson of Ray Downey. Joe was only 5 years old when his grandfather died on 9/11. Joe Downey spoke to ABC 7.
My grandfather, he had 4 core values in his life: family, faith, fitness, and the FDNY. So hearing about this run, this was a sum of all these values in one.
About 3,000 people were killed that day in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania. There was a deadly school shooting in the same Colorado County where the Columbine High School massacre took place 26 years ago. Authorities say Wednesday's suspected shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Department says the shooter wounded 2 other students with a handgun at Evergreen High School and are hospitalized. Sheriff spokesperson Jackie Kelly.
Obviously, we're going to focus on that suspect's home, his car, his locker, all the things that we need to do to find out more about him and maybe why this happened.
Jefferson County Sheriff spokesperson Jackie Kelly says the shooter was a juvenile male. Opening statements get underway today in Fort Pierce, Florida, in the trial of Ryan Ruth. He is facing criminal charges for allegedly attempting to assassinate then-candidate Donald Trump with a rifle at his golf club in West Palm Beach. Global news 24 hours a day, and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Karen.
Thanks, Michael. Time now for our Bloomberg Sports Update, and for that, we bring in John Stashower.
Thanks, Karen. Looks like the 49ers going to have to play their Week 2 game in New Orleans without their starting quarterback, Brock Purdy. He's got a toe injury. Coach Kyle Shanahan calls him a long shot to play Sunday and says he actually may miss several weeks. Rough night in New York baseball. Mets lost in Philadelphia 11-3. Phils now lead the division by 10 games. The Yankees gave up 11 runs. Lost to the Tigers 11-1. So for the Yanks, back-to-back losses by 10 or more runs for the third time in Yankee history. That's your Bloomberg Sports Update.
Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Daybreak coming up after this.
Coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on Sirius XM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager. The assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk has sparked shock and outrage across the political spectrum, and it's raised new questions about the state of this country's discourse. President Trump put it this way in a video tribute to the Turning Point USA founder.
It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible.
That was President Trump in a video tribute to Charlie Kirk posted on Truth Social last night. This morning, we're joined by Terry Haynes, the founder of Pangea Policy. And Terry, this just seems to be the latest in a wave of political violence that's been going on in this country for years now. Could this change things? Good morning.
Good morning, Nathan. I certainly hope so. It's disturbing in political Washington because I think it's taken by everybody as a direct shot at the First Amendment. I don't mean to abstract a human tragedy, but there are these aspects. It's a direct shot at the First Amendment, freedom of assembly, freedom of debate, viewpoint diversity, all these things. And reckoning is necessary. I'll be optimistic about the possibility of that happening, but it's by no means a slam dunk.
And to that point, I mean, we've seen on social media, Elon Musk posting on Twitter, the left is the party of murder. Some other conservative activists calling Charlie Kirk a martyr. And of course, we had, attempts on President Trump's life just last year. What will it take for cooler heads to prevail from all this?
You're absolutely right about there's a long litany on both sides of outrage and direct action against people and things. I think you really need three changes inside the political class and outside of it. First, you need more humility than we've got today, a lot more of it, sense that everything has gone too far and needs to stop. Secondly, you rightly point out the rhetoric, and the rhetoric is way over the top on both sides. 2 days ago, a Democratic United States senator, who I'm not going to name because I'm not interested in outing anybody, said publicly that we're in a war right now to save this country, so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary to save the country. That sort of rhetoric is, I point out, just as the most recent example of many, that has to be dialed down because the message is that you have to do whatever is necessary implies the kinds of things that happened yesterday. It does. And so there's that. And the final thing, too, is the political culture today on both sides rewards extremism, and that's got to stop. One way that can stop, there's a lot of different ways, is by making sure that, just as in 2020, that those who fund the politics, individuals, companies, express their intolerance for this sort of intolerance.
In our last minute, Terry, an act like this and coming after some of the others as well, does this point to an instability in our country? Put it in a broader context for us.
I don't think it points to an instability in the country. I respect the conclusion. I don't think it points to an instability in the country. I do think it's a situation where people, whether they're officials in the United States government or ordinary citizens, find themselves gripped by this sort of apocalyptic rhetoric, and on both sides again, and feel the need to somehow address the situation. And that's a problem. Now, I will be optimistic in the end because I lived through the 1960s and 70s as a child and a young adult, and that's exactly the same kind of thing that happened then, and we got past it, and I pray we do now.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak, your morning podcast on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed by 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 92.9 in Boston, and nationwide on Sirius XM Channel 121.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto interfaces.
And don't forget to subscribe to Bloomberg News Now. It's the latest news whenever you want it, in 5 minutes or less. Search Bloomberg News Now on your favorite podcast platform to stay informed all day long. I'm Karen Moscow.
And I'm Nathan Hager. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.